7 long years, the local government elections are going to be held. Wow, that's amazing. After so many stops and starts, Supreme Court cases, and a lot of arguments, we are finally almost at election day, which will probably be sometime in early May. Good evening and welcome to Face to Face. We have with us this evening Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchi, Executive Director of PAFREL, and Mr. Manjula Gajanayake, who is the Executive Director of IRIS. Welcome, gentlemen, and good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Right, exciting times for everyone, but especially for you gentlemen and your organizations, as well as all the political parties in Sri Lanka. 7 long years, Rohana. We were supposed to have had this election some time back, but the last one was in 2018. So just to give our viewers a small brief about what happened, why did it take so long, and what were all these delays. Rohana?
The local elections, as you mentioned, was supposed to took place into 2022 March. But the minister do have, because at that point the government doesn't want to have any elections.
Because of political reasons.
Because of political reason. I think in Sri Lankan contest, wherever the ruling party, if they have some chance to get advantage to take decisions on election days, so they most of the time they postpone or they delay the election, so they had a staggered election. Sometimes they had a early elections as well, but they try to took advantage with that window.
So in plain English, they chickened out. Okay, true. So and multiple parties did
that. Exactly. I mean, we do have enough experience on that. So even in these elections, the minister did postpone for 1 year. Actually, it's legal. The minister do have authority to, power to postpone for 1 year at any time. Any number of time he can postpone, but at that time 2022 the minister postponed for 1 year period. Then the election commission prepared to have a local election 2023 March, and they went on even printing the ballot papers, staff allocations, train the staff, and all these logistics were arranged by the elections commission.
The candidates paid deposits,
exactly,
and the nominations were handed in.
Everything was done. The 80,000 candidate were nominated or prepared for elections.
But and the finally, election day was also set.
Actually it was scheduled March 9th. Then again it has postponed up to April 25th. But government didn't want to have any elections during that period. I think we can remember the president Ranil Wickremesinghe, he was in the power at that time, and he publicly stated that, and even in the parliament he enjoyed with saying that there is no money, there is no elections. Actually they play with that. Whatever the measures taken by the elections commission, finally due to the financial issues, because the ministry did not release the money, and I don't know whether you can remember, I think I'm sure that the people can remember, the district returning officers, those who are during that period the elections officials, and the public administration ministry, the secretary of the public administrations, send a note to all the returning officers not to accept the deposit at that time. This is
completely
illegal and violate the law and disobey the elections commission's ruling. So we have identified, I'm just sharing one incident, but we have, I think Manjula, myself, and even the other observer group, we have identified around 30 incidents or areas where the government try to postpone, delay the elections. I think elections commissions, one member was resigned, and they were threatened by unknown people. So there are so many effort to postpone the election. So that was the history of the present local elections. Finally, but with the present government, they and in between we went to the Supreme Court, court intervention. There were different type of cases. Some people some individuals was trying to delay the elections using the judiciary system, but people like us, the observer group and some political parties went in the other side, and finally there was a court order also to have a sooner local election, and that they have given instructions to the elections commission. So this is the basic background. So after everything, even after the court order, I think we had to face presidential election and the parliamentary elections. So after that, then present government, they decide to cancel the nomination because there are some practical issues with the existing nominations. Now nomination has cancelled. Now the election commission has called for the nominations. Nomination is on March 17 to 20th March. So now I think the country is preparing, the political party is preparing, former candidate also preparing for local elections. So there are 336 local authorities. Actually, there are 340 except Alpitier, but there are 4 authorities which has still having some legal cases challenging the nomination.
Today
of course,
today they have cleared another 3 localities. No?
So, but then you have to call the nomination again for those 3. But 36 authorities are now is clearly preparing for having their local councillors.
Absolutely. And of course, the 2023 nominations had to be cancelled. And Manjula, can I bring you in to explain why those had to be cancelled and fresh nominations called?
Yeah, there's a long-standing demand of some of political parties to cancel those nominations, because you know that all the nominations are totally outdated at that time. That we know that the election was scheduled to hold 9th March 2023, but unfortunately due to many reasons, as clearly mentioned by Mr. Rohana, actually didn't conduct the election. Therefore, there were many reasons. The number one is that you know that the population, that the voters, that according to the enumeration list this time more than 17 million voters will be added into the enumeration, that the voters list this time. That means the comparison is nearly 500,000. Then 500,000 of voters will be added into this time list, because at that time there was a voter list that to be used 2022 voters list, but in this time election commission is arranging to use the list of 2024. Additionally the 18 plus voting also, that mean nearly 17.2 million voters, as well as you know that candidates, there were many candidates, more than 82,000 candidates have submitted their nominations, but unfortunately, you know, due to this unfortunate situation, that postponement of elections, that when comparing with the 2023 and this time, some of candidates have migrated, some of may have died, as well as you know that among some candidates actually they don't have any interest to contest in local government elections. There were many reasons, as well as the major problem should be crossover, because at that time, you know, in between there were 3 elections: parliamentary election, as well as presidential election and small elections for the LPTA locality. And during these times, actually, they have created many political coalitions. You know that any elections, before any elections, that in Sri Lankan political culture is creating some of coalitions. Then they are, at that time also, they have created many few coalitions, but due to other elections, actually, there were many of crossovers took place. Therefore, now, though some of political parties have submitted their nomination papers, when it comes to 2025, you can't find those those candidates are aligned with that same political parties. Maybe if I'm telling that, I mean, as an election observer, that Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna SLPP, I'm pretty sure that maybe half of candidates have crossed over to another political parties to support President due to the last president election.
President
Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. Then such things happen.
But then some of them may have crossed back now, so
yes.
you never know.
And some of them are willing to cross over again to the same political, that major political party. Then such things happen. That's why the cabinet decided to cancel the nomination. I think comparing with, we have to, most important thing is actually that we are following, we are applying an inclusive election process. The key theory, I mean, the key policy is that actually including everyone into this electoral process. Considering that policy, actually, that the cancellation of nomination is, I think it is something good that it should be done. As well as, I mean, that is the way, actually.
Certainly, very few people would argue against that logic.
Yes.
And especially because 500,000 new voters. We know that about 250,000 students sit for the O levels every year. So they would turn 18 at a certain time. So that's 250,000 a year, roughly speaking. So, you know, if you wait 10 years, you've got 2.5 million. So basically, you need to get all those people, give them the ability to vote.
Definitely, as we heard, that Election Commission is going to use the electoral list updated until 31st January. That means fresh new voters, I mean over 75 new fresh voters will be added into this list.
With these cancellations of the nominations, youth quota also will implement in these elections. So there will be
now that's a new feature, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, it was there in the past, but when we bring this new mixed electoral system in 2012, I think we forget that portions, the youth portions. But in 2023, we brought that legal framework. Now, in these elections, every political party and the independent groups, they have to fulfill the 25% of youth quota between 18 to 35. And also that's a added value in this with the cancellations of the previous nominations.
Right. And Rohana, any other new features in this election compared to 2018 when the last one was held?
Yes, there are other new features, but it's nothing new for Sri Lanka now, but it is new for the larger local elections, that is campaign finance. It has applied for presidential election, parliamentary election, as well as the LPTA local elections, but just one local authority. But this is the first time we are applying this in a larger scale. So 80,000 candidate roughly, we do not know exactly, but compare with the previous 2023 nominations, there are 80,000 candidates. So this time too, the similar number of or closer number of candidates will be there. So those candidates has to submit their report within 21 days, income and expenditure report. Now, if you look at the LPTA Pradesh Sabha elections, after the elections, more than 150 candidate, independent and the political party, was not able to submit their report within the given time frame. So now the police are taking the actions against those candidates. So end of the day, 150 people will lose their voting rights for 3 years period, and their candidacy also will stop. I mean, based on the judgment, it's a proceeding. So if you apply the same percentage here in the upcoming local election, again there will be a 10,000, 8 to 10,000 candidate may not submit. I mean, we do not know. So we need to encourage each and every candidate, either a through political party or independent groups, whether you like or not, whether you don't have any expenses or not, end of the day, within 3 weeks, you have to submit your report. Therefore, every candidate need to prepare their day-to-day income report and expenditure report, because otherwise within a shorter period you may not in a position to submit your report. So therefore, every individual has to prepare their own report. That is the other feature. And also I wish to highlight, because this is a nomination period, Niresh. So last time there are 162 nomination papers were rejected, mainly from the political party, but independent group also. So one of the reason is that they were not able to fulfill the women's quota. So women's quota, the nomination level, when you submit your nomination, there are two nomination papers. The main one is the contesting group, based on the vote. So you have to fulfill, or you have to give 10% quota for vote level, 10%. For the second list, you have to give them a 50%. So if you are not fulfill that requirement, your nomination will reject. And if you are not fulfill your youth quota, your nomination will reject. But the youth quota, of course, you can cover with the women's one also. I mean, if you are bringing youth between 18 to 35 ladies into your list, you don't want to put men's within that age group. Right. So either way you have to cover, either contesting list or the secondary list, or you have to have a separate list. And also you have to prove that this is the women's list. So they have to submit their ID documents, copy of the ID documents. And for the youth, you have to submit again birth certificate or whatever the proof document. The important point here again about the age is going to calculate from 24th 2024 1st of February, where the voter registration is starting, because we are going to use the 2024 registry. So registration is started 1st of February, that is the law. And the 35 years the Elections Commission will look at the last date of nominations. That last date of nomination means 2025 March 20th. So the when you calculate the 18 to 35, the youth group, so that is the cutoff dates. So we need to careful on that. Sometime if you bring youth or women's exact percentage into the list, if anyone disqualified for some of the reasons, then the entire, because then it will affect for the overall percentage. So then your nomination paper will reject. So political party, there are other technical things also. You have to the signature has to be verified, signature has to be countersigned, party secretary or his representative need to submit, your deposit has to be deposited before 19th, and you have to submit your nomination within the given time frame. So there are technical things also. But if you fail to do so, your nomination will be rejected even this time. So we have to careful on that.
Right. And for each local authority, it's a different nomination paper, obviously. So you're basically going to have thousands and thousands of such nomination lists. So like you said, it's quite likely that a large number of them would be rejected. But on the other hand, I suppose it's up to the parties and the party secretaries especially to make sure that they get it right.
Exactly, party as well as the independent group, because in this electoral system you can't our electoral system you can't contest as individually. Always you have to have a team, and you have, I mean, the local election you have to have two teams for the contesting for the votes, and the, I mean, we popularly say it PR list, but actually it's not a PR list, second list, but basically publicly the well known word is PR list. So you have to have a two list for this election.
Now getting the nomination list written correctly is quite crucial, and there have been some instances in the past which were quite embarrassing to political parties. If I remember correctly, Manjula, one of the major parties once failed to submit a proper nomination list for the Municipal Council of Colombo. And it was rejected because of an age issue.
Age issue, actually. Age issue. But you know that when we discussed with the Election Commission that particular issue, Election Commission told us that what Mr. Rohana is mention is very important, because actually Election Commission has noticed that error, because the calculation of age limit was wrong. Due to that, you know that when it comes to nomination, I mean submission of nomination, that time period, usually Election Commission generously supporting them, then they are always giving additional time also to recorrect their nomination papers. At that time also they have noticed that particular issue and inform them to recheck their nomination papers, but they have rejected and they have just submitted their nomination papers. That means carelessness is very key.
Yes, so that particular nominee was therefore 17 years old.
Yes.
Right.
But now, as a result of that, the electoral system has little change. Now, individual nominations, based on the individual nomination, the entire paper may not reject like in the past. But due to that individual nomination rejected, if it effect for the entire percentage of youth quota or a women quota, then the entire paper will be rejected.
Otherwise, it's just that one name which is rejected.
And also, Niraj, the other aspect of this nomination, they need to careful. I think if you look at the other example from Maharagama, independent group, I mean the main political party's nomination was rejected and they supported for the independent group, so they success. But finally, they also has to resign because those candidates or those elected councillors were not represented that area, and most of them are from Gampaha. So, in this local elections law is clearly stated that particular candidate has to qualified to be registered and that specific local authority area. That doesn't mean that you have to register, you have to be a voter there, but you have to have a qualifications to be registered there. I think you can remember that's a 2010 General Fonseca's elections also. It was a big issue. General Fonseca was not registered as a voter, but he was qualified enough to be registered. So, in this case also, but he or she has to be within that geographical area on this local authority. That's number one. Number two, if it is a government officer, there are a couple of categories of government officers. So, the executive officers has to resign. If it is a normal government officer, they have to take leave. Then again, if you are a field officer, you have to transfer. If you are planning to contest local authority A, you have to transfer. If you are working on that area, you have to transfer from A to B or C or whatever the other local authority area. So that means the field officers should not have any official power to influence the voters. That is the point behind this. So those are also need to be considered, because nomination paper may not reject at that point, but once you get elected, then they will be challenged by someone else. That is also need to be seriously considered by the political party and the independent groups.
So, Manjula, what this means is that each candidate needs to be very clear about the election laws and regulations.
Not only candidates, that even political party secretaries and leaders of independent groups, because when it comes to the nomination process as well as entire election campaign, what we have noticed for years, that the most of political party secretaries as well as those leaders of independent party independent groups are not aware much on this legality, as well as when it comes to the candidates level, that that the even that these days actually, that what Mr. Rohana said, that if you are not living within that boundary, that local authority area, then actually that it is disqualified. But again, now some of chief organizers of that particular areas, that particular electorate, now they have informed some of women candidates that if you are not registered, if you are not registered in the voters list, then you are disqualified. Actually, you are not eligible to vote contest. That also another thing, that false rumors, and they are using even such things they are using. They know the law. In other side, actually they are using to undermine the women representation also. That thing also there. Then it is so important not only to know the legality of the local authority and the how to select that the candidates, and how to select members into such particular local authority, as well as what should be the criteria to select women, to ensure women participation in such particular local authority. Many things to learn. I mean, that, and it is so important thing is that this is the only election that applies mixed member proportional system to local authority elections only. Actually, there are many election systems.
So we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that system right after this commercial break. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
In the heart of Anamadur, lives are changing. For years, patients traveled miles for life-saving treatments, but not anymore. Gammatha renovated a building to establish a dialysis unit at the Anamadur Base Hospital and constructed another building to house a medical-grade water purification system. Gammatha, for the people, by the people.
ඔය කියන්නේ ඔයා මේ හොටෙල් එකේ දේවල් වලින් ටික කාලයකට අයින් වෙනවා කියන එකද?
ඔයාගේ හැටියට ඔයාගෙන් මට කරදරයක් වුණොත් මිසක් මගෙන් නම් ඔයාට කරදරයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මම ආයි පාරක් මැරි කරන්නේ නැහැ කියන අදහස වෙනස් වුණේ.
වෙනස් වුණේ?
නෙත්මි වඳුන ගත්තට පස්සේ.
ලංකට ආදරේ.
රස රහසක්
හෙට රාත්‍රී 7:30ට
සිරස ටෙලිතිරයෙන්.
Hopefully my last.
My dear friends, here we are, all in our true colors.
on TV1.
Welcome back to Face to Face. We are with Rohana Hettiarachchi, Executive Director of PAFRL, and Manjula Gajanayake, Executive Director of IRIS. Now, Manjula, you were explaining about the mixed member system. Please continue.
Yeah, it is very important. You know that there are few particular election systems in world, majority systems, as well as you know that the representation proportional representation system, that there are few of very particular election system that world is using globally. However, in Sri Lanka after 1977, after the introduction of our second republic constitution, then we have introduced proportional representative system for parliamentary election, as well as that you know that when it comes to the parliament presidential election also, it is just like the majority system. Again, that when it comes to the local government election, it is very first time in Sri Lanka. It is the only election system that applying only for the local authority elections, that it's mixed member proportional system. Accordingly, 60% allocated for the FPPT under this system, while other 40% of quota, the 40% of portion is going to proportional representation system, 60-40. That means this is something that the mostly FPPT system, because we have a nostalgia. No, even before 1977, Sri Lanka adopted
FPPT, it is first past
the post system. Then most of Sri Lankans demanded such a system. That's why I introduced this system. As well as there's a special feature, no, that the counting system. In this counting system actually will take place in that particular polling station. If there are 2 or 3 polling stations, actually the election commission will select one single particular polling station and will count. That means before 10, 30, 11 actually we know who
on
can
the day
win.
of the election.
That is the special thing. And other thing is, the very special thing is under this particular election system, we know that under the first past the post system, you know that the single constituency unit votes accordingly, according to the election system in mixed member proportional system we used 2018 10th February, there are 4,750 single votes constituencies unit, and the multi-member unit, then there are 165 multi-member unit, including comprising 2 members, 165. That means 300 members will be there. Again, another set of multi-member seats that comprising 3 members. There are 12. Colombo district, actually there are 3 multi-member seats, and also in Sammanture. That means 4,919 votes are there. Accordingly, 5,092 members will be elected. It is under the first past the post system. That other feature is, we can't say how many members will be elected under the proportional representative system, because it is uncertain. The reason is that there's another special feature, overhang, because last election when it comes to the last election, we saw that there were 383 overhang seats added into the overall list. That means we can say how many members can be elected under the first past post the system. That means under the first nomination list. But under the second nomination list, that additional list, we can't say certainly how many members to be elected.
Yes, it is very complex, especially for us in the media, because we do announce the results first and fast, as always, and we have to make sure that there are no mistakes whatsoever on our part, certainly, but also on the part of the Election Commission and so on. So we do put a lot of care into it, and I can tell that I'll be doing a lot of reading into reading up of this system because it's a lot more complex than either of the last two elections.
And also women representation also there, and calculation system also another level of counting then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Rohana, the women's representation of 25%. Now we had this once before, but the general view is that political parties simply brought in relatives of existing male politicians, relatives, friends, neighbors, and so on. And there were many of those ladies were there as namesake. So the male politicians continue to rule. But this time, hopefully, we will see more genuine women participants, would you say? Or we can hope for more?
Hopefully, yes. Because, you know, the first time when we introduced this women's quota, political parties was not sure whether this will apply for the election, even until the last minute. So and also most of the parties, they did not have their women's cadres as such, and they did not have their women's arms as such. Some parties earlier days, I mean the major parties, they did have. But for the last elections, most of the groups, they didn't prepare for that. So therefore finally, because it was a compulsory, otherwise their nomination were rejected. So they had to fulfill the requirement. Therefore, finally, whoever available, as you mentioned, some family members, some housemates, some occasions we have realized, and some office staffs, they have to use to fulfill the numbers. And some occasions we have learned that the candidate, they were not fully aware about whether they are candidate or not. Sometimes they call their relatives and uncles, they call and ask, okay Buddha, would you mind to sign this paper? And some of them, they just sign. And end of the day, they claim that they were not aware, right? So this was the situations. So that doesn't mean that there are no capable, qualified, suitable women. So there are. So this time, I'm sure the lot of quality representatives can be included, because almost all the existing members, those who were in the system, also quite experienced. So I'm not saying I mean, as we both mentioned, they were not qualified from the beginning, but 4 years with their experience, at least half of them are, we can say, quite good. So this quota, I'm happy to little explain about the legal framework also. So this women's quota and the youth quota is only the nomination level. It's a compulsory only on the nominations. But women's quota is a compulsory at the council level. So the Elections Commission has to make sure, end of the elections, that 25% of women's councillors are in each and every councils. So that is the Elections Commission's duty. So the nominations level, there are 10% contesting candidate. So first, Election Commission will look at how many percentage, whatever the party, it can be multiple political party, what is the percentage already get elected by the people. It can be 10%, it can be more actually, because several political parties are putting their 10%, so it can be even 20%. So balance has to be fulfilled by the Elections Commission using the second list. Again, as Manjula mentioned, that's also a little complicated. So Election Commission also has to follow certain guidance. So the political party, those who have not get two representative, either party or independent groups, they are not supposed to give this quota. I mean, they wish, of course, they can, but the Elections Commission can't pressure that. And also the political party, those who are not got more than 20% of votes, they also not supposed to fulfill the quota. So as a result, the last time, even though the 25% was compulsory, it ended up 23.8%, because due to that two other criteria. So this time we hope that, because there are the quality represented, quality women's also are already in the system, but it is completely depend on the political party and the independent group. I mean, there can be women's, capable women's in the system, but if they have not given the nomination for them, as Manjula just mentioned, some the organizers are using this legal framework also, stating that okay, you are not capable, or you under this criteria you are not qualified to be a candidate, something like that. There are some ways they can remove them from the system. But anyway,
so party politics within parties.
Exactly.
And groups.
I mean, because the competitive candidate, the organizers also sometimes little reluctant to bring the competitive candidate into the system. Some people, not everyone. So in such a scenario, that also be a problem after the elections. But I am sure, compared with the last election, this time there will be a more qualified, capable women's in the new councils.
And we hope that this will lead to better quality service where these local councils are concerned, in giving such a service to the general public.
Actually, that is the ultimate objective, right? So the local service delivered by the local council.
Absolutely. Now, Manjula, what about campaign finance? What's the cap, the maximum that a candidate can spend?
Yeah, last year, you know that the nomination process in the 2023, due to the postponement of election, actually at that time Election Commission came up with a formula that 20 rupees per voter, but they applied that particular amount for around the country, for all the candidates, political parties and voters. That means the ceiling was 20 rupees per voter. But finally, when it comes to the parliamentary election, actually they changed the formula. They came up with different formulas, that same formula, but for 22 ceilings, for 22 electoral districts. Then this time we don't know exactly what kind of formula they are going to use, but definitely we know they will consider population, the density, as well as the inflation, economic indicators and many things. However, we don't know still that whether they are using the same formula in this time also 20%. Maybe it definitely will be high, because we know that inflation is high and the population and everything. Then we don't know exactly, but pretty sure that this election is so important. More than 80,000 candidates will be there, and they have to submit two kind of reports, that expenditure reports as well as how much they have spent during their campaign, and what kind of things they have received. In that way, actually they have to submit two kind of reports. That mean hundreds and thousands of reports will be received to Election Commission. That means that actually that the upcoming election will be so crucial, because of additional point that due to that campaign finance law.
No, it will be somewhere around 20 rupees, because last time also they have given 20 rupees or identified. So this time too, after the nominations, that is the law says within 5 days of period, Election Commission has to announce what is the ceiling amount. So as Manjula said, should be somewhere around, can be little less or little plus 20 rupees. Yeah.
Right. Now here's a point which the three of us discussed after each of the last two elections, which is what's the point in income expenditure statements if it's not transparent, if the public don't get to see it? And shouldn't the public see these reports on a daily basis during the campaign before they vote rather than after they vote, when it's actually just of academic interest to the voters, although it is of course a legal requirement. And this time with 80,000 odd candidates and 2 reports each, who's going to go through 160,000 reports at the Elections Commission? Where do they have that manpower? So I mean, I get the feeling that candidates can write whatever they want and they might still get away with it. So there needs to be some streamlining of this system, don't you think?
Of course. Actually, it would be nice if they are publicize their report daily basis. It's online. I mean, easily they can publicize their own Facebook page or whatever, or even their political parties. So local election, it's easy for their Facebook pages, social media pages, whatever they use. Then and there people will get to know. And the other day, even once I voted for you, I will get to know that you have got the money from the wrong place or illegal money. So I do not know that before I mark my ballot to you, right? So it is ideal situations would be that online day-to-day income and expenditure report, because then it will be transparent, and before you come up to the ceiling amount, you will get to know that you are now the limit has over, right? That's one thing. And the second point which you raised, that is also really interesting. 80,000 report, nobody is going to review. Even the 35 presidential candidate report, we know that some of the presidential candidate, they have submit only 2 page, 3 page. Nobody has challenged so far. And only challenge is, if you have not submit your report within the given time frame, the police will take the actions. Actually, Election Commission doesn't have authority to do that. So that has to change actually. And my argument for this law, it has to change, not the police or even the elections commissions to taking legal actions. If you are not submit your report within the given time frame, automatically you should be disqualified, because there is no point, there is no investigations. If you are not submitting your report in due date, so there can't be any investigations.
Absolutely.
So I mean, there can be a situation, some individuals, you may have some practical difficulties, practical challenge to submit your document within the due dates. So then you can go to court, rather than Election Commission or a police wasting their time and wasting their money, wasting the court time, 10,000 cases. So there will be individual cases from the candidate side, but that has to be changed, and there should be a system to review the document also, whether they are coming up with the right informations. So those things need to be looked at after this election.
Digitalization is
of course,
key.
the present government is talking about the digitalization. I am sure that it will come within next couple of years period.
Right. And I started this particular program by talking about 7 long years since the last local government election. But there is another election which we haven't had since 2012, 13 years, and that is the Provincial Council elections. Let's talk about that, and we are almost out of time, so let's just spend a few minutes, Manjula. Provincial councils, there are 9 of them, and we have had elections to them in different years, but I think the North and the East, those 2 provincial councils.
Term was over 2018.
Yes, so 2012 we had the elections, and the term ended in 2018. Yeah. And for 7 years they have run without elected representation. Are we likely to see this? Do we want to see it? Is it the law? Is it in the constitution?
You know, we had a glimmer of hopes to conduct local government elections due to the thanks to some organizations like PAFRL, CPA. Actually, and some political parties. Actually, they went before the court, and actually they got the Supreme Court order. And luckily now we have local government election. Comparing with local government election and other elections, that provincial council election almost disappeared. Actually, that you know what has happened in 2017, because they introduced a women quota for provincial council election. Due to that, there was a heated arguments in the parliament, as well as subsequently they had to submit the delimitation report. Now at that time, you know, that that particular delimitation report defeated by that same government, that ruling party, which introduced that tabled that report. Then it is that fascinating time. Then due to that, actually now no one knows when election, that provincial council election will happen. Therefore, my understanding is that that term limit is only 5 years. Then according to the constitution of Sri Lanka, especially 13th amendment, we should have that provincial council election. That means all of us are violating second republican constitution of Sri Lanka. That's the main thing. Other thing is, you know, that some of countries, India and other, even international community, they had a great interest on provincial council elections, because it is a part of a devolution package of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is a devolved country. Now it seems that the interest of those countries and international community also we can't see, as well as political parties. Some of political parties were thinking that they will defeat, therefore no need provincial council election. At the end of the day, what I see, that the political party leaders are violating second republican constitution of Sri Lanka. Therefore we should come up with a solution. The parties, that the responsible parties to make a decision is political party leaders. If they are responsible to deliver something for the voters, actually they need to come up with a decision and hold provincial council election.
Interesting thoughts indeed, and I'm afraid we are out of time tonight. My thanks to Rohana Hettiarachchi, Executive Director of PAFRL, and Manjula Gajanayake, Executive Director of IRIS, for joining in this most interesting and educational discussion. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away, because the news is coming up next. Have a great evening.